Nigeria's Senate President Godswill Akpabio says with the improvements in revenue that accrue to the states monthly, the governors can now pay conveniently a new minimum wage if signed into law. While stressing the need for all parties to join in the minimum wage negotiation to abide by the agreement, Akpabio said the significance of the one-day retreat on labor reforms organized by the National Institute of Legislative and Democratic Studies in Abuja further underscored the possible legislative interventions in redressing the endless conversations about labor issues in the country. The Senate President noted that it had also been argued that increased minimum wage could lead to inflation as businesses may pass on the higher labor costs to consumers in the form of higher prices of goods and services. Arise analyst Dash Wale joins us now to share his perspective on Senate President Akpabio's comments that states are rich enough to pay minimum wage amid claims by governors that they cannot pay. Good afternoon, Mr. Shibwele. Great to have you.
It's a pleasure having you as usual.
So where do you stand? Are you stand with Akpabio or you stand with the governors?
Okay, I will explain myself.
Okay.
I will explain myself. But I'm amused by it all. You know, the last time we discussed this issue, I said once Labour came out with that astronomical demand and it just got to a stage where it got to the table of the president, where the work stops, and the president now passed it to the legislature. I said it has become a legislative matter. Mm-hmm. Let me commend an institution first that organized this seminar. That's the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies. You know what they call this conference? A legislative intervention. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, to me, Labour has lost ground, has lost the initiative. It has become a legislative issue. Because once they pass it into law, you cannot demonstrate against the law. So it was essentially an industrial relations collective bargaining issue, but has been so heavily politicized now that now it's been put in the court of the separation of powers. The president will send the bill, and then the legislature will make the law. That is our presidential system of governance. But this is essentially an industrial relations matter. The Senate President was represented at that seminar by the chairman of the Labour Productivity Committee. And he gave a lecture that I think Labour leaders should go and get a copy and learn and do their job properly. That if you increase wages to lead to inflation, if you increase wages, the private sector will fire people, will retrench people to balance their books and make profit. These are the things that Labour should be talking about. And he made a very revealing information, which is that workers in Nigeria, 92.8% are in the private sector, informal sector, and they can't live. That those we are talking about, and all this brouhaha, about just 8%. So it's something for all of us to learn from. To me, Labour played the high stakes, and inadvertently, due to unintended consequences, lost out, and the issue became a legislative matter. Let's leave it at that for now.
Okay, perfect. Mr. Shawale, I love that this conversation is now geared towards the legislative matter, because I want us to talk about legislative and policy interventions, because Akpabio highlighted the need for these legislative interventions to address labor issues. Now, what specific measures could be implemented to ensure that the states comply with the new minimum wage law? And then on the flip end, we also talk about productivity, right? This 8% already have low productivity, even with this current 30,000, 62,000 brouhaha. So even if there's more money that goes to these workers, how can productivity also be increased on the back end so that it's I guess levels in a way?
Yes, you raised two issues.
Yes.
Legislative intervention and productivity. Mm-hmm. Yes. You see, let the initiative that this institute has put on the ground, let it trickle down.
Yes.
The governors reportedly say they could not afford minimum wage, but they have legislation. The legislature could call them to task. The legislature could call them to task.
Yeah.
You get me? On the issue. And that's the constitution. You get me? The executive makes laws.
Yes.
And the executive executes policies, but the laws are made by the legislature. We have state legislatures now.
Yes.
If a governor comes out and says he cannot afford it, then they can take him to task. How many special assistants do you have? What is your style of leadership? The cost of governance.
Yes.
They can take him on. Get me? Maybe somehow we are finding a way to make ourselves accountable at the highest level. So that's why I said, I'm saying again, I commend the initiative of that Institute of Democratic and Legislative. They have seized the bull by the horn.
By the horn.
If every Nigerian institution is as alert as that, we won't be where we are today. That's on the issue of legislative intervention.
And
Then on productivity. You see, what they have put there now, sorry about this.
Yes, it's your,
Just put your fans.
your fans that just can't wait for you to.
No. Anyway, on the issue of legislative, no, I'm talking of
productivity.
productivity.
Yes.
You see, we have always known that various, you cannot in a nation like this. I think that representative Akpabio even said it. You cannot pay flat rate for the whole of the country. You cannot pay flat because there are so many industries. And now that you have 92% of people who will take care of such people. They are out a living themselves. They feed themselves. And here you have vulcanizers, you have street traders, and so on. This is the informal sector that keeps the economy going. But because they do not pay tax, people don't want to listen to them or attend to them. Right. Let's leave it for that.
Okay, no problem. Now, when it comes to transparency, Mr. Shobowale, how would you say, how are state finances in this case when it comes to the transparency in terms of affordability?
Especially on the back end, just to add to that, of the fact that we now know that states are collecting more since subsidy was allegedly removed.
So how does that transparency end up affecting the minimum wage goal for what we're looking at?
You see, it's just a matter of replicating what is going on at the center now, in the National Assembly. Do you get it now? It can be replicated. If a state chief executive comes and says he cannot afford to pay it, then let us see the books. Let us see their sources of revenue. Let us see their expenditure. Let us see their cost of governance.
Yes.
Then people will be able to judge. Let us see the public-spirited, public-oriented projects they are on. Maybe free education, maybe free transportation and all that. So that people can say, okay, we excuse you, pay this. But people cannot just come and form a collegiate system, say a governor's forum. You know, it is a fallacy. Each governor was elected in each state based on his programs. And I'm sure nobody came out to sell a program to Nigerians that says that they will not get salary or that they will not be able to afford minimum wage. The budgets are there. All these are historical research and analysis. You can know those who can pay and who cannot pay. And then talking of productivity again. Yes, productivity is making maximum use of your resources so that you have optimal returns. If they cannot manage their states to have optimal returns, they shouldn't be in office in the first instance. So it's a matter of mainly accountability. Mainly accountability. And again, I'll commend that institute that initiated this thing. And I put it labor, the way it has found itself.
Yeah, so it almost looks as if it's that cap of 62,000 naira at this point, and of course, different states now trying to figure out exactly what they would be able to pay. But thank you so much for being on here. We always appreciate your time and analysis on Newsday.